it was either on TikTok or some social media. I just seen someone talking about UGC, and I was very interested. At that time, I was had so many different little business endeavors going on that I just kind of tiptoed into it. I was actually looking for ways to make money though. I wasn't just because at that time I'm always trying to get the bag, you know.
Right. So, is there any specific industry you like working with more than others?
Honestly, the tech is pretty fun. The
Okay.
tech I actually recently had an AI face mounting. It was a phone mount
Yeah.
that tracked your face. One of those. It was pretty cool. That put your phone in, it had AI chip in it. It would center you and track your face.
Okay.
And I use that sometimes. But stuff like that, or the applications where you do the green screen in the background.
Okay. Let's go. All right, how my experts doing another episode of Brands Experts Podcast. We have a great guest here, Isaiah Sanders, out of the Northern California area, UGC creator. We're gonna let him introduce himself and let the world know exactly what he does.
Hello, thanks for having me. I appreciate you. So yeah, what I do specifically, I do a lot, but right now I'm trying to blow up on is a UGC. It's called that is user generated content. And so basically, my job is I help brands reach a larger audience through engaging content that they post on their social media page.
Okay, for sure. Now, you're the second UGC creator I've interviewed as far as sitting down with. First one was Marianne. She's out of Mexico and she does UGC as well. And, I've always understood how incredible it can be just because brands, have really been blowing up, especially in the past 10 to 20 years, as far as a lot of clothing lines, a lot of
Hmm.
people, recording studios, you name it. And to get the word out is kind of, complicated how you're going to do it, but with the rise of, first it started with MySpace, then Facebook, and now Instagram and
Yep,
Snapchat and,
yep.
all the social media platforms, it's a really big thing. So, how'd you actually get into UGC creation?
Man. Okay. So yeah, I've been doing this since 2019. Since
Okay.
2019, I've been doing UGC.
Okay.
And so I actually found it was either on TikTok or some social media. I just seen someone talking about UGC, and I was very interested. At that time, I was had so many different little business endeavors going on that I just kind of tiptoed into it. And then around I think 2021, I really kind of went full head on and really pursued that as kind of a part time slash full time thing.
Okay. For sure. So 2019, you kind of got into it, did your research and things like that. Was
Yep.
there a specific person, somebody you knew or somebody you were looking at online that kind of, really sparked your interest to look into it a little bit more?
Mm, no one in particular, to be honest. It was just a random video. I was scrolling like we all do on our phones. I was just doing scroll, and I came up one day. I was actually looking for ways to make money though. I wasn't just because at that time I'm always trying to get the bag, you know.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right. Okay, for sure. So looking for ways to make income, you kind of seen
yeah,
people doing different things and you
yeah,
wanted to get into it.
yeah.
So when we talk about UGC, is there a specific area that you like working with more than others as far as industry like tech or just specifically fashion or cosmetic products or is there any specific industry you like working with more than others?
Honestly, the tech is pretty fun. The
Okay.
tech I actually recently had an AI face mounting. It was a phone mount
Yeah.
that tracked your face. One of those. It was pretty cool. That put your phone in, it had AI chip in it. It would center you and track your face.
Okay.
And I use that sometimes. But stuff like that, or the applications where you do the green screen in the background.
Okay. For sure. Okay, for sure. So I mean it's so it seems like you really enjoy working with tech. Tech is the biggest industry in the world. Obviously, we're using it right now, using Zoom. So, shout out to Zoom, shout out to Apple. As you see, I got the iPhones in the background. It would be,
Right.
kind of, how everything's going. It's kind of hard to go a day without using technology. We talk about the map app on your phone itself, computers, tablets. It's just really running the world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. So when we're talking about when you're actually, okay, you want to become a UGC creator, somebody, is looking at you and saying, okay, I want to do what he's doing. Like, what are the steps they need to do to actually get experience and gain the skill of being a UGC creator? Like, what are the steps involved?
It takes a lot of time and research. I had no idea what I was doing at first, to be completely honest with you. To get
Okay.
into UGC, it takes a lot of consistency, hard work, and dedication. It's not for people who aren't willing to be consistent. And definitely, it could be a little part time income. Definitely, if you want to make a little part time income, but it could be a lot of money too if you really take it serious.
Okay, for sure, for sure. Now, do you know any of the, if you're looking to up to anybody in the space, do you know any of the, bigger players in the space, heavy hitters that have been in the space for a while and doing their thing? Like if, you know, people you look up to in the space?
Definitely. When I've done my research, I can't give you exactly names or anything like that, but doing
Okay.
my research is definitely inspiring. I've been doing my research since 2019, and now we are here where we're at. And I've seen a lot of creators grow pretty much since then. It's really inspired a lot, like huge. For example,
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of, well, actually, I don't know if you're a Fiverr or not, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah, but so on Fiverr, there's this one guy that was a pro creator already when I think he was or wasn't. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, I eventually, a few years later, seen him on YouTube. A guy that I was seeing him on Fiverr, he ended up on YouTube commercials. And I was like, wow, UGC can go really far.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm noticing because there's so much products and services out there and new ones being created every day. A lot of people don't have a model or really anyone that can test out the product and give an honest opinion to go back in the lab and improve the product or whatever they need to do just because of the fact that it's a new product and they're kind of in that stage of okay, new product, kind of they need to figure out what's
Right,
going
right.
on, because the product is so new. So you're definitely in one of the most rapid growing fields in the world just because the way entrepreneurship is growing and building and moving at such a rapid pace. So uh, the field you're in is such a blessing because and nowadays, people go to Instagram and YouTube to look at the reviews and things like that first. So, the field you're in is growing really, really fast.
Definitely, definitely.
For sure.
Even just social media in general, since COVID-19, the boom of tech and social media is insane.
Right. It's still actually on an uptrend. Like it's not
That's
hasn't
right.
died down yet, from so many different areas for sure. Now, when we're talking about UGC, are you staying 100% product based or are you moving into services as well? Like, you know, some things are products, but some things are services. So are you kind of, are you looking to get into services as well?
I definitely am trying to get into services as well. Products are definitely fun, but I'm trying to expand and get as much money as I can out of this. I love UGC. It's fun. It's a lot of hard work, but it's definitely fun and it's worth it.
For sure. I say something that's very underrated that I want all UGC creators to look into and kind of get involved with is the fact that there's a lot of local companies, whatever city you're in, that even smaller companies, boutiques and places like that. So, picking up a product, like let's just say it's from a t-shirt shop or, you know, something like that, whatever it is. But going home and creating that content puts you in a position as a creator to separate yourself from everybody around you just because of the fact
Exactly.
that, yeah, you're the only one that's actually doing it. Because, what people don't really notice is a lot of smaller companies or even product-based companies, local companies, they don't have any content yet, but they're in a great industry. So
Yep.
let's just say it was a smaller clothing line, in a fashion district where you're at. You say you're close to the Sacramento area, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So there's a lot of commerce going on in Sacramento. It's capital California, big population, NBA team. You have, the
Hmm.
49ers that are pretty close. You have baseball that's pretty close as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So hockey, you'd have all pro sports, a lot of stuff going on as far as in the Bay Area. There's very active music scene going on up there as well. A lot of entrepreneurship going where E40 is really spearheading that as far as the entrepreneurship is going. So you have a lot of different directions you can where you can take that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I actually have a good example of another thing that people could do. Food, going
Okay.
to restaurants, food UGC. That's
Right.
something else that I was trying to work on. Or even you said like I believe mom and pop shops, but you could even go to some bigger brands that you wouldn't quite believe would work with you. You know, brands
Yep.
necessarily like franchises. People don't have time to make content; they rather outsource it. And if you
Yep.
make good content, they're going to hire you and stick with you,
Mm-hmm.
put you on retainer, and that's where the big bucks come in. They have budgeted for you to make content for them. They have big budgets, big marketing budgets, and you just got to negotiate, the rates. But you can get some serious money if you do it right. Just for one video, you can go into a Honda car dealership. But just the other day, I seen on TikTok, a guy was doing something that looked like similar to UGC, but he walked in and he asked the guy, "Can I shoot a free video for you for my portfolio?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Sure." And I'll send it to you later. And so he shot a video of a car and then sent it to him later. And the guy loved it. And it was funny. He was saying in the clip that it was the marketing manager of the Honda, and he was saying that he actually was looking for someone just like him at that time. And it's funny, he walked into his doors. He had a friend, the marketing manager had a friend who was doing movie directing and stuff like that, but that's not necessarily the right kind of expertise and knowledge for you to see. So
Right.
the fact that the fact that that guy walked in and asked him to shoot you a free video, that established trust, and not that he's trying to be greedy, and they kept through on his word, and then followed through with quality content, got him a deal.
Right. See, just going in there and making an offer, right? A lot of people don't even understand the power in going in and making an offer like us, right? Having a conversation on Fiverr, showing you what I've done, just starting the conversation. A lot of people are afraid of the conversation because they're afraid of getting a no or things not going or kind of, just a conversation. But what people have to understand with that, with doing UGC or, things like that, making content, going places, asking, hey, can I, this is a nice restaurant. Can I make some content here? You know, a lot of people never even ask the question where, yeah, the last 10 restaurants might have said, oh, no, thank you, or it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that restaurant, is now they need somebody to do that. And they're asking for your social media and they're asking you questions and they want you to come back. And now you got to start a partnership just because you open your mouth and ask. So just like you
Yep.
said with the guy that asked, with the Honda dealership, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Just because he asked, in his head, he probably thought this isn't going to work, but he had a thought like, let me get this a shot. And so, they always say the shot you don't take is you know,
I got you. All the shots you don't take, you miss.
exactly. But I think it's like I 10x that because it's like for every 100 shots you don't take, you miss. To me, it's more like you miss 1,000 shots for every 100 shots because of the
Yep.
own unknown opportunities of where it can take you. That's why I look at it like it's farther than that. So every shot is almost like 10 shots. Like you're wasted more shots than you even awarded the first time. Because what's super interesting, one of my mentors, Myron Golden, he says that the sales that you get and the growth and everything that you get, it always comes from the square root of the total amount of whatever you do. So let's just say, for example, you reach out to 100 people on average, just on average times that you do that, you're going to get 10 sales. So
Easy.
it's always going to be that amount because there's going to be some people that flake at the last minute. Whatever the case, you can do 100 podcast episodes and only 10% of them will do the things you need to do. You still have to do all the rest of them to get there. And what's interesting is some of the ones that you never expected to be a part of that 10% or to lead into other opportunities, you'll never even know it because you never even gave it a shot.
I like that. I like that. Yes, actually, there's a book on that called the 80-20 rule. I read it
Okay.
partially, and basically, pretty much, you pretty much summed it up. But it's if you had 10 businesses, to give it another example, you had 10 businesses, pretty much only two of those are going to be your main money makers, and the other eight are going to be trash, pretty much not making any money. It don't matter. You might as well just throw them literally in the garbage.
Right. No, that's crazy if you think about it. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know if you're into sports at all, but
Yes.
if you think about it, you have the top 10%, 20% of athletes that's who makes, 90% of the income. And
Oh
also
yeah.
that's why 90% of the people come there to watch. Like, there's LeBron, there's Steph Curry, and then,
Yeah.
there's, then there's everybody else. So it's kind of like that carries itself true in so many different industries and in so many different ways. So it's just, I love how true that is. And it just shows, like, sometimes we get so discouraged when things don't work, but it's kind of like sometimes things don't work. That's okay. Like, it's
That's so
interesting.
too.
Yeah, there's another study that by the time you turn 30, you're only in communication with 1% of all the people you've ever met in your whole life. Isn't that
That's deep.
crazy? That's
That's
deep, right?
deep.
So let's say that by the time you're 30, you've met or interacted with 10,000 people. The odds are there's no more than 100 of those that you've still interacted with, right? I mean, you got to think about it. You said you're
25.
25, right? So you went through school, elementary, junior high school, and whatever you've done after that.
A
Is
little
it
bit of
safe?
college.
Okay, you went to college too. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that it's around 1% that you still have communication with?
Probably less.
See what I mean? See how crazy that is? So
uh,
so that percentage should show people, like, okay, you make UGC. Let me go ask. It's a Saturday. Let me see how close I can get this weekend to ask 100 companies, hey, do you want to sponsor any of your, your clothing or any of your stuff so I can make content with it? You're gonna get
exactly.
people, no, you could buy, no, you have to buy, no, you have to buy, no, thank you, no, thank you. By maybe number 67, you get somebody, you guys start to have a conversation. Hey, come back on Tuesday. We're doing a photo shoot. I want you to be a part of it. Just because you kept going, they're like, man, we wanted somebody with that look. We wanted somebody of that age demographic. We want somebody, you know, that fits what you're doing
Exactly.
to be a part of it. Just because you went and said, I'm gonna hit this number of 100, you got to where you were going. So
Hmm.
I just think knowing those averages, is such a safe space in your head, because you got to think about it. You can, have different, relationship interactions and all this stuff, but the one person you meet that's really solid, that was just one out of how many people that you've met and hung out with and stuff like that, just 1%. So, I just knowing those numbers is really reassuring to me, because we get so caught up in everything having to be 100% the first time, but it's
Oh
like
yeah.
that's just not realistic.
Definitely.
Uh,
Definitely. We're not supposed to be able to be 100% everywhere.
exactly. So that you're in it though, I want people to really, learn, you know something that they can actually use and plug in from this. So
Yeah.
if they're just starting out, right, they have social media
Okay.
accounts, and they're like, I want to use this for my, to do UGC. Like, I want to be a UGC creator. And, they, let's say, for example, they have 1,000 followers on Instagram, and they're like, okay, I'm ready to get started. What's kind of the first thing? Do they need to reach out to their family and friends? Do they need to sign up for a Fiverr account? What, from your experience, is the best way to get started?
Okay. So first off, I like the social media, what you said. Definitely
Uh,
you can have a social media presence, but it doesn't really matter. You don't even need to have 1,000 followers, honestly. You could have
Okay.
0 followers. You don't even need a social media page.
Okay.
Like you were saying earlier, if you have the right look, what they're looking for, then you will be that yes
Okay.
or that demographic. But so anyway, so basically, you wouldn't start making content if you haven't been making content. If you already know and understand content and marketing and social media trends, then basically make a portfolio, grab whatever's around your house. Like you said, go to any store and ask you make free content for them, or you could buy some if you just want to get the ball rolling. Don't want to experience all those notes. Just buy some real quick, make some
Okay.
content, and then post it, and you can tag them, and they'll see that eventually and be like, "Oh, okay, that looks good. Actually, let's have a deal." It happens for a lot of people. I've heard countless stories of that. That's actually one thing I'm gonna start executing here soon. Is directly start pitching to brands and adding them in the post and mentioning them.
Okay.
And but anyway, so then you continue with that. You build up your portfolio any means necessary. You it's gonna be tough at first because you not know what you're doing. It's tough, and a lot of people think, oh, a lot of views on your page matters if you post your own content on your social media. It's not getting a lot of views. That's okay. it's going to get a lot more views on the brand's page, and they understand that. And because they have a larger audience, they have, depending on what the brand is, they could be a huge brand, 100,000 followers, or even 10,000 followers. 10,000 followers, that's a good amount of followers,
Right.
seriously.
Right.
And even a million followers, you'd be surprised. Big, huge brands need, everyone needs UGC. And so you could start, it takes a lot of time to get the ball rolling, get your name in the hat. But once, brands see you consistently posting on social media, whether it's free stuff, posting for them, or like you say, make a Fiverr account or any other freelancer websites such as Upwork, and you just find jobs and bid for jobs. And sometimes you got to do them for real low. Sometimes they'll be real high amounts, but just do as many as you can and put them on your portfolio, constantly update it. It's important. Always update it and be consistent with everything that you do. And even back to 80/20 rule, some of these brands, you might think, oh, they only work one time with me. They'll come back and keep, ordering from you. That's pretty much 1 out of 10 out deals I have. I have one or two clients always come back to me and always order. It's crazy.
Okay.
The 80/20 rule always follows through no matter what it is. We were talking about sports,
Yeah.
business. It's crazy.
It is crazy, and that rule is so incredible to me to once I've understood it to where sometimes it's even lower than 20. But it's okay because it's over time it will average out. It will average out if you do 100 approaches, you'll get around 20. It might be a little bit less, it might be a little bit more. It might be a lot less, it might be a lot more. But on average, you'll have 20%. And so you just gotta go to the point to where you're numb to the nose or to the stuff that's the way, what I found that works when people do pitches, and it's all I
Mm,
want to let you know too. When you're actually doing pitches in person, set a timer on your phone, because what will happen is it will start to be you'll spend too much time because people start asking questions and it leads to different things. Set a timer in your phone as soon as you walk into the business or as soon as you start interacting, push start. And then when they say, oh, okay, you say, hey, this is an important phone call or I got to do something. And then you move that over into the next thing and you exchange business cards or give them your card when it's time to leave. For in person interaction and closing the leads, I found this to be very effective because what ends up happening in person, we're humans are interaction based creatures. We love interacting,
yep.
talking, kind of, but what can happen in that situation is time moves rapidly. So you want to go make 100 pitches and you spent an hour and a half at this business that's not even going to turn into anything just because you guys connected on sports and something like that. But if you put your timer on 15 minutes and say, this is the longest I can be here, and then now you have to go and then have an out, tell them, hey, I have to do a meeting for a company I'm working with, whatever you're telling, because what that's doing, that's elevating your status in that conversation, because they're like,
Yep.
okay, it's not just like, oh, I have to use the restroom or something like that. You want to
Right.
exit on an elevated status.
Oh yeah.
What that does in the situation is that puts it to where they'll want to lock a time in, and when they contact you, they're going to be thinking in their head, oh, he has, he has meetings, he has things going on, so they're going to want to get to the point quicker. But what I've noticed is that's what ends up happening is when you're out making pitches and building relationships and interactions, it can sometimes, it doesn't happen every time, but sometimes it can go a long time, and we haven't took the notes we've done, we've just gotten so distracted, but that keeps us on our data collection. That keeps us moving on to the next thing we got to do. That keeps us locked into the goal, to the bigger picture. Because a lot of times, sometimes people, it can be a really cool interaction, but it's taking us off our goal. Because as we know, as life goes, and especially now where there's so much places you can spend your money, bills never stop, responsibilities never stop. There's not one month there's something that pauses. It's like if it's due every month, it has to be taken care of that month. So if you have quotas to get to, if you have, things you got to do, utilizing that timer and that calendar is super crucial, is super important.
That's definitely serious. That's actually the next step to getting ahead,
Yep.
actually, in UGC. Once you start getting deals and whatnot, it will happen, eventually happen. It'll probably start slow for some people, they started making $10,000 the first month, and
Wow.
I didn't believe it at first, but I didn't personally, but I could see why that happens now. But
Yeah,
that's few and far between. But I could see it if you're about what you just said, hitting up 100 brands, and it's a lot of hard work, but that is the next step. And part of that hard work is, like you said, setting the timers and keeping track of everything you're doing and not making sure you're getting too distracted, and making sure you're staying, focused on task.
for sure, for sure. Another thing too was so incredible about the UGC community is that's a special industry to where you can actually operate more so as a CEO and put other people in position, right? So, say for example, let me see. So, say for example, you're in a situation where you have to do some things, but you have some people that want to do that want to do UGC for you. So you can
Yeah.
say, hey, I want to do X, Y, or Z or whatever, and let them know that, hey, you could do this. I'm going to give you a commission for every contract that we get. You're going to get a 5% commission or whatever. So that puts you in a position where you could still continue to accomplish what you need to accomplish. Say is women love clothing, and it's just there's so many women clothing brands, cosmetics, all this other stuff. But you know, you had a woman that wanted to work for you. You say, hey, look, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to send you the stuff. Every time we do one, it's going to be this much, and it's going to be taken care of this way. So it just puts you in a position to capitalize on so many opportunities. We talk about kids' clothing. We're talking about women's clothing. We're talking about women's product. We're talking about all this different stuff. I mean, it's just so incredible the opportunities that await you when you're able to position yourself in the right way with the content.
Oh, definitely, I agree with you. I like that. I actually have a great example of something I did recently.
Okay.
I went to a casino nearby, and I have a friend who just lost his job and is going through some
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
oh yeah, job, and his family had to move on short notice, and a few other sad circumstances. But he's working past it, and so I wanted to show him what I'm doing because it's working pretty well for me because we've been talking, and he was seemed kind of interested, and we just were so busy for a while, and finally perfect day happened. I said, "Hey, can you help me? I need some help with this video quick at the casino." So I had him meet me at the casino, and the video took us less than 5 minutes, and it was crazy. We shot an amazing little video for a game company, a casino game company. It was really easy, and once he seen it, he was shocked. And I even gave him $20 because that deal I knew was going to pay out, and just gave him a little 20 real quick, a little gas money paying for his time because I appreciate him, and also to show him that the money is real. And if it wasn't real, I wouldn't be able just to give him a little sum, give him a little.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah,
For sure. I mean, that's great to be able to, communicate with people and to, help them out, bless them, as I like to say, because, I'm 36. And what I've noticed, something very interesting that I've noticed is it took me a while to kind of really get this down, but it's really hard to be blessed when you're not blessing others because it's just so interesting that I realize this, but over time you do realize it that a lot of times things aren't working for you. You don't have the right connections. You don't have the right environment because everybody's not, you know, blessed with the type of family or the general environment that people are going to call them like, hey, you're my nephew. Here's 1,000, or here's this job, or here, come home Saturday. Just sit here and here's 1,500. A lot of people aren't blessed with those kind of environments or opportunities. But a lot of times when you bless others, we can't even predict or even control like how did this happen and how do we meet this person? Well, it might have happened because a year before you blessed this person. It might have happened because when you were, at the store, you put, $5 in that little bucket for Children's Hospital. Those things that we don't always know where it goes, but it's the mindset, it's the understanding that we don't have control over everything, but we can control what we can control, and what we can control is a lot.
definitely. I like that. It's
Yeah,
crazy to actually say that because this friend that I showed, me and him have been friends for say at least 10 years now. He
yeah,
actually taught me exactly what you just said.
yeah.
And I was having a bad day. And he basically said to me, he pulled me to the side and he said, how much stressful things happen to me a day? and how much do you think it, or something like that along the lines of that? How much of it do you think bothers me? And I said, I don't know how much stressful things do. I can only imagine because his job at the time was he was working too, and I was visiting him working, and he was some I forget the job exactly, but anyway, so he said zero, and that shocked me because his whatever job it was, I remember it being stressful, and I was like, interesting. He said it's only what I allow to stress me
Mhm.
out, and I don't allow anything to, no matter what it is. And ever since that day, I really I took that. He's had a motto for. I really took it on. He's pretty much to heart. I think the best thing I could say it was you always have to account for variable change,
Yep,
and that just changed my whole life.
that's true. That's true. I mean, yes, everything does not go as planned. Like I've learned that. Like it could be the perfect opportunity, the job, everything going good, whatever the case, living situation, and the next month it's just things went left, whatever, you got hurt, you got sick, you didn't get the overtime you were looking for, or whatever. And it's like, okay, now the adjustment side has to happen. Like now it's time to adjust. Now it's time to make moves on the things you need to do because you don't, you know, you know, have the luxury of things going the exact way you wanted them to go.
Exactly.
So definitely being able to adjust, definitely being able to plan for what's later. Things that are going to happen later is crucial. It's important because it's interesting. Something I've learned, right? And even when it comes to UGC, being prepared in life is a hack. It's a cheat code. It's a way to get it ahead because if you're prepared for if because everything you've done every day of your life to today has prepared you for today. Super interesting.
I
And
agree.
right. And it's so crazy because it's gonna continue to be like that. So, for example, say you learned some camera skills 5 years ago, and a company that wants UGC says, "Hey, could you fly a drone for this whatever it is for this? We want you to review this leash, but if you can put drone footage, it'll go from 200 to 800." But
Exactly.
since you learned that skill, you still got the drone, or that's enough money. You can say, you know what, I've been meaning to invest in a drone anyway. You could tell them, tell you guys what. If you guys get the drone, I already know how to do it.
Yep.
I have some drone footage. I can do it. Just pick up the drone for me and I can do it. Just take that out of what you were gonna get me. They're like, okay, cool. So they got the drone for you. You did it off of some skills that you had 10 years ago. So everything you've done every day of the past of your life is affecting today. The more I think about that, like I think about something incredible. We're doing this podcast right here. And how many
Yeah.
podcasts have you done about your UGC career?
This is my first one ever.
Okay, so this is your first one, right? So let's fast forward.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward 5 years. This is
Okay.
the beauty in having a habit of being proactive. And then when I told you, hey, let's do it at two, because time is such a valuable asset and resource. I don't want to waste any second. All right. So if I have an open, it's like, hey, let's take advantage now. Why wait a week when we can get it done now?
Heck yeah, I agree. Heck yeah.
All right. So this is what's so interesting. So now this is sparking something in you to where you can say, you know what? I can use this content, whatever's created. Let me download it. Let me save it. And the communication skills that you're gaining and building and improving from doing this podcast, they're never going to leave you. They're going to stay with you forever. So your podcast wish list now, because a lot of people say, oh, what are you going to be doing in 5 years, 10 years, right? We hear that a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
What
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
like about that question is, okay, I want to be I don't know, whatever, NBA owner, team owner. Okay, great. What habits are you doing today
Mm.
that are going to lead you to where you want to be in 10 years? That to me is a better question and you'll get a better answer. Because if somebody says, I want to go to the NBA, but they're sitting there playing NBA 2K or,
We all know someone like that.
yes, we do. That's not going to get you where you need to go. So it's like, what habits are you doing today to get you where you need to go? And then off of that question, you get a better answer, right? And so you wanting to be on let's say it's a EYL, or let's say it's a Drink Champs, or let's say whichever the ones, $1 million worth of game, you have to start somewhere. You have to say, well, hey, this person is connected to these people. This person we're 7 degrees of separation. Everywhere in the world is connected to 7 people. It's just super crazy to know that,
Ooh,
right?
very my man, everything you're saying, I've literally be preaching. I've heard during the research. It's crazy. I
Exactly.
tell people the 7 degree things too all the time. It's crazy.
Exactly.
It's
So we're gonna
crazy.
get to the second half of this. Just want everybody to know, like, this is special. So when Isaiah Sanders, like, he has very great insight and everything like that. But we're gonna get to the second part of this. Know that, and like I say, we just blessed to have him on here and learn about his UGC game.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, for sure. Give me a second. Yeah, but yeah, what I was getting ready to say is I believe that I've personally lost millions because of this reason. You ever see a little picture where you got the two little cartoons digging, and one hits the gold and one turns around, right? Because they stop and the other person went another day, and I really believe that, like, because of what we were talking about earlier, that it doesn't matter if it's UGC, it doesn't matter if it's podcasting, it doesn't matter if it's a YouTube channel. The next day theory, if it's something that you love and you're into, I believe it's always valid, because anything you're good at, it's interesting because 9 out of 10 times you weren't good when you started doing that thing. And so but after some time, depends, it clicks. Like, it depends on the time, but it clicks, right? And it's like in school, different concepts that you're learning. That's why school year is so long, because some people get the concept in a day. Some people get them on, the last month of the school year. They're finally understanding, like, okay, this X means multiplication. So, like, this is the
Yep.
process for this. And it might be, whatever it may be. You didn't learn to stand up the first time you try. You didn't learn to tie your shoes, to do whatever the skills you may have. You didn't learn those the first time you tried them, but the skills that we have, communication, getting on Zoom, we've all
Yep.
had to do these things for the first time and figure out how to do them. And you know but
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's so interesting. So I think I've lost at least millions in different industries and different things and relationships, just because it was like, oh, this ain't working. We all had those things that happen, like, oh, this ain't, I don't like how this is going. But then when we look back at it, it's funny, like, most things, it was like, some things were just, not in the cards for us. I get that. But most things, when you look back at it, weren't that hard.
Definitely, I agree. To kind of tie everything in together, let's see. I would definitely say, like, for example, when I was first starting UGC, it was definitely, I felt like I couldn't do it. It was brand new. Honestly, I hated it at first. It was very uncomfortable. To be quite frankly, honestly, I wasn't that good at public speaking, and I was very nervous. Like, I got shy in crowds, and so I had to face that really fast,
Right.
especially because some of the videos I have to do are street interviews, and I have to be out in public. And honestly, now I love it, seeing people's reactions, thinking I'm a famous content creator. Stuff. It's really funny how people act, all different types of ways.
Right.
But if I would have quit, I definitely would have got to experience that reaction. I would have got to experience having this interview with you right
Right.
now,
Hmm.
and even just just I would say, oh, I had something in my head, lost it all in a
No, you good.
second.
You good. And something else I wanted to get on is very interesting. But because the more I live, the more I, like, kind of realize that we live in the most interesting time to me that's ever existed. Because, like when I just did the pro payment for the Zoom, and an interesting thought goes through my head, and it's like, hmm, a long time ago, it was like you had to be selected. Like, if you were born poor, you died poor 99% of the time. If you were born rich, you died. That's just kind of how things used to be. But now there's this thing called cyberspace. And it's like when I made the payment, it happened in cyberspace. And I'm just like, and I'm thinking, like, in my head, like, wow, like, that happened in a space that I can't touch, but I know exists. And it's super interesting to me. So I'll leave that to say, you know, I think now, interesting question to me that most people never ask, and I think it's very interesting because everybody has a different definition of it, right? But it is, what is money to you, right? And how do you convert that more? Because you know what it is to me, as I've lived to today, I would say it's your ability to have expertise, build expertise, and negotiate your expertise, like your level of that you're an expert, because that's in it. It like there's players that have big contracts that aren't that great of a player, right? For say, but their ability to be an expert in picking a good agent that's going to negotiate a good deal, that is a part of them being an expert. The, somebody's ability to say, I'm going to get on 200 podcasts this year. I'm going to ask 2,000 podcast owners and I'm going to get on 200. And that led to them, building relationships and doing things. So that's what I really think it is. Like, that's what as my thinking just keeps building, that's what I think it is. But what is it to you?
Money to me, honestly, that's you helped me remember I was going to say.
Okay.
Money to me is to be able to for opportunities not to work out, be okay with it.
Okay.
For you to like build yourself, market yourself, live comfortably, and do whatever you need to do to live the life that you're trying to live by any
Right.
means.
Right. No, for sure. For sure. So basically to be able to say yes to the right opportunities and no to the wrong one.
Exactly.
Right.
And even sometimes we say, yeah, thinking we're saying yes to the right ones, but they're the wrong ones. We have to be able to say no. That's part of learning and growing. Sometimes we think it's the golden opportunity, and then we get into it, and it's not. I've definitely got into that with a couple of contracting deals I had to cancel because it wasn't worth my time, and I was able to do that because of the cyberspace we're talking about. That's
Yes.
not having a 9 to 5, a boss over my shoulder telling me what to do. I mean, I've had 30 jobs, and I don't mind working. I like hard work, but I just
Right.
can't do well with people telling me what to do, especially if I'm already doing it and I'm doing it well. That was an issue I had a lot. But anyway,
Right.
this is why UGC is so amazing, or even just the cyberspace like DoorDash and things like that. I did a little bit of
Yes.
that, things
Yeah.
like that nature. There's an app me and my wife are doing. I have a wife and a son. He's about to turn
Okay.
2 soon.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank
Congratulations.
you, thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. And we were doing Rover, that dog watching app at our house. We're doing that for a little bit. We were doing Churro. All these things
Yes.
didn't exist so many years ago.
Hmm.
When I was a kid, my parents couldn't have did this. If we were struggling, we were struggling. Now you can hop on one of these apps real quick, make you $100, and you guys can eat tonight or pay a light bill. It's like crazy.
Yes, the cyberspace. I talk. That's why it's like even rideshare has created billions, if not trillions, of dollars of opportunity for people because they have a vehicle and now they can immediately put that vehicle to work and say, okay, I'm going to work 10 hours today, and now they have $280 today. Well, a lot of years ago that wasn't possible. You were just stuck not having a job, but now you can say, okay, I'm going to get these rides going, post up close to the airport, wherever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever strategy you can put in your head
Yeah,
and elevate your expertise and retain expertise and turn that expertise into a brand. Like that's the build up I was getting to is when you can turn the expertise into a brand, like your ability to be an expert into a brand, that is the secret weapon. Because if you really think about it, we're so brand centric in today's world. A lot of people, they don't even say, "Are you driving a car anymore?" They say, "Are you driving? Well, what are you driving?" So the car is almost not even in the conversation. And then they say, "I'm driving a Tesla," like it's not even a car, that it's
yeah.
something else, right? Or I'm in a cyber truck. It's not a vehicle, it's a
Yeah,
cyber truck. Or I'm in a um whatever it may be.
the
They're gonna
spaceship.
exactly. That's pretty much what we're talking about. Exactly. We're it's
uh,
more about a brand than anything. Like when people look at this video, they're gonna notice, yeah, of course, I got you, I'm here, I'm talking, but they're gonna key in on the iPhone. They're gonna key in on that brand, they're gonna key in on that
I was
product.
smart. I was
All right,
smart.
for sure. And it's like if they can lock in with something they're familiar with, then they're more likely to click or watch or do whatever with the video because there's already a connection with something that they're interested in already. And Apple is a top 5 brand in the world, so it's going to get instant recognition. The way they do their design and do all
Oh
that
yeah.
stuff. So
Oh yeah.
they rolled that expertise over into a brand. So that's what I've learned it is in today's world. It's building expertise, elevating it, building it, packaging that up into a brand. That's how people in specific experts can get hundreds of thousands, millions sometimes to speak or do a commercial because they're an expert and they've rolled that expertise over
Hmm.
and over and over into where they're at. So when people are frustrated about LeBron's son playing on the Lakers, I think they're losing the big thing that happened when JJ Redick became the coach because of a podcast that helped. They're losing what was going on.
Right.
LeBron's brand, it's so controversial that now people have to look at it. Now people have an opinion. And so what that did is, oh, now is JJ a good coach? Hey, can Bronny be, whatever, 10, 20% of what LeBron was? We'll take that. So it's like that expertise rolled over. It's so powerful that now the kids get to benefit. Right. And we see it so many times with so many different leaders, how they, pass down companies or people around them get to benefit
Hmm.
because of that high level of expertise. So it can be a situation where somebody can wonder, why did someone pay you $1,000 to do a product review on headphones? So then you show them your electronics portfolio. You say, well, this is the 1300th company I've done with electronics. I went to CES in Las Vegas. That's Consumer Electronics Show. And
Hmm.
you're like, I made it a point to ask for 200 interviews. You interviewed with this company, that company. You tried this product out. You did. So they're like, listen, they're paying for all my years of life experience and my 8 years of doing UGC. So that's why it's 1,000. That's why it's 8,000 to try headphones. That's why they flew you out to a headquarters and asked for your
Hmm.
opinion on how the cushions feel or however else. Because that's why I believe pay is in today's world and money is. It's your ability, it's your expertise level. That's what it is. That's why they'll even bring a consultant in or have someone sit on a podcast now. And you'll wonder, like, why is this podcast guest getting this? Or why is this person getting this to appear here? He or she is an expert in an industry. That's why. And their expertise has built and packaged over into a brand. So, just understanding that because it translates over into pretty much every industry. So you go from being able to negotiate this amount. If you
Hmm.
keep upgrading your expertise, then you
Yeah.
negotiate this amount. And you
Oh
keep
yeah.
up, then it's that amount. And it's just people wonder why this is like that or that is like this. Expertise. They're an expert. So that's why the Chris Brown concert may be, to be in the VIP 3,000
Yeah.
and a new artist it may be 200. Why? Because he's built his expertise since 2005, year after year, and he can bring his portfolio and say, "Hey, I'm a top 10 artist since then." And even you at this point, when you're negotiating, you have your expertise working for your UGC for content creation. Now you have podcasts, and now this is
Hmm.
building over into the
Yeah.
next podcast, and then you
Yeah.
say that podcast featured these guests, and so you can make a whole art piece of I've been on this podcast that featured this that one. So now you're in that group, right? And so I just think that people
Yeah.
not understanding that, so that elevated your brand. And that's what people don't understand what's going on in the podcast game is now it's like, okay, this elevates my brand. So it can either be the podcast saying, hey, hey, let's pay this to get this person on, or the guest saying, hey, we need to, this is a part of marketing budget. We're doing a marketing run. Let's, position ourselves right here for this. It's gonna elevate the brand, it's gonna get awareness, this is gonna do the right thing. So I think understanding that now, like how things go in cyberspace, like how fast things happen. There's literally people that 10 years ago would have just been stuck. And now, since they can drive Uber or Lyft or whatever else, they're literally paying rent and mortgage off of a skill that most people have driving a car, which is remarkable.
Exactly. Exactly. And UGC is the same way.
Yeah.
To bring a point about building the brand, the iPhone, which you have behind you, obviously,
Yeah.
that's what I've used for all my UGC content. And
Right.
I've had that for a long time because year after year they came and showed that they were a competitor, they're consistent. That's
Yep.
why we pay the big bucks for these phones
Yep.
because they had the expertise in this. And
Yes.
I don't have the 16 yet, but I do
Yeah.
have the 14 Pro Max and then the 15 Pro Max. And
Exactly.
I go between both of them. And also, UGC, you need a lot of little different products. I also have the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. I got, yeah, UGC is like that. You need a lot of different phones, but yeah.
For sure. If now somebody is getting into UGC, so now they're comfortable with it. They say sales happen because of the questions you ask. So when you're going through asking questions to brands when you're working with them or you're building, next level relationships and things like that, is there a baseline of questions that you go through, or is it kind of like it goes, customer by customer, kind of looking at it like, okay, I got a client over here, they want this done. Let me, learn a little bit about the brand. Let me, just kind of see how things go. Or is there a certain list of things you go through no matter what because that's how it is?
I think it's definitely a little bit of both. What you said, definitely, it's different per client, per brand, but there's definitely certain questions that I'll ask for definitely to make sure that we are on the same page and what they want gets executed properly. And
Okay.
I think if you everyone needs to have that in order to even level up. My always think I'm trying to do better and level up. Eventually, make my own podcast. This is the perfect example. My first one. This is
That's
amazing.
right.
That was on my goal for next year, and now I'm ahead of the game for that.
Yeah.
And this is an amazing opportunity. Definitely, if I
Yeah.
and I, even I actually ended up quitting. You see a little side story. If I didn't start up back, I actually started up recently. I didn't. It's not. I quit just because I was moving and I knew UGC was working a little bit. It wasn't working how I wanted it to work though. Not yet. I just didn't give enough time. So I was moving, had a lot going on, and after the move, I decided to give it one more chance. I remember I had disabled my Fiverr account to make sure my ratings didn't get messed up. I'm like, this is going to be important because I need these ratings because that's the expertise. That's what people want to
Yes.
see to prove.
Yeah.
Why should I pay you $1,000 for the product review, like you said? And so I just disabled it so that way no one can communicate with me. My ratings don't get hurt. And then I just recently started back up and just been consistent, making my own content, repurposing old content. I'm recording this with one of my iPhones over here somewhere right on the side.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy, definitely.
Yeah, man, I'm doing that with some of my content that I had. I've done different interviews with. I'm putting it up. I'm putting it all up. That's the thing. Like, I recommend people clip it and put every second up because you have to look at it. You don't really know what's gonna go, what's gonna connect with the right person. Because now it's interesting. Some people don't consume long form; they only consume, YouTube Shorts, TikToks,
Exactly.
or they just consume short form. So if you have a podcast you did with somebody, you got to put the whole thing out
Definitely.
because it's a world where we don't know what connects with the next person. It's such a technology and information are moving faster than they've ever moved. So the ability and the opportunity to connect, you got to catch it quick in cyberspace. Like you got to catch it quick. So that's why Gary V. I don't know if you know who he is, but
Definitely.
okay, yep,
Oh yeah, my man
yeah.
Gary.
I
Yeah.
got you. So Gary Vee says you should be putting up 100 pieces of content a day. Now I'm not at 100, but I understand what he's saying because what he's saying is it's free to do. And so people used to have to pay to get commercials, to get airtime, to get in the penny saver, get a newspaper. You got to pay for that. So all this is free. So why would you not be taking advantage of the opportunity? Why would you not be collaborating? Because some people want their page to be pretty and cute, and they're like, okay, you want cute and pretty, but if somebody told you you're gonna get 10 grand if you post 10,000 times this year, now cute and pretty just flew out the window. So you have to look at it like I'm gonna get it regardless. So 10 times a day, okay, I'll get there. Okay, from 10, it's easier to get to 20. From 20, it's easier to get to 40 just because you have a good rhythm. You're saying, okay, boom, I'm taking a lot of pictures. I'm repurposing old stuff. I have an interview coming up. I did 10 hours of content. That's going to, boom, there goes, 100, pieces a day. I can clip these over into smaller pieces. It's just understanding the opportunity that the world is becoming a lot more competitive every second. because more and more people hop online.
Yep.
Businesses are hopping online. There's a lot of businesses, big businesses that before the pandemic didn't have any digital footprint. They didn't, that just wasn't the thing they're doing. They weren't doing any social media
Yep.
marketing. So the
And they
smaller
still don't.
companies were eating it up. Yeah,
They
a
still
lot of
don't.
companies still don't. They still don't do
Yeah, it's
that because
crazy.
they don't understand where everybody's time and attention is. There's still mailers coming to your house. I bet you even get them too, where
Oh yeah.
no one reads that. No one, it's easier to just go into the store and pick out what you want. Time is more
Yeah,
valuable in today's world.
exactly.
So understanding all those elements is really kind of, where I'm at with it. Like, okay, that's how things work. Things move way too fast, not to post, not to put things up, not to reach out, because people have to understand. If I didn't reach out to you, learn from you, want to keep building and doing this is what people don't understand. They want everything to be easy. They want everything to be easy street. But
Yep.
what people don't understand is there's so much successful people that have said, you know what, I'm gonna take a bet on this and figure it out. Like, because and when you go back and look at it, it's so interesting. But it weighs itself true so many times when you look at how successful this person got starting off doing it 90% hustling. And you go back and look at it, and this was the case most times. This was the case. If you go back and you look at a Nipsey Hussle, if you go look at Dr. Dre and
Yep.
NWA and how
Yep.
they started, they were hustling their music.
Yep.
It got into the right hands. But what happened first? They were hustling it. And YouTube and social media has made that digital and made it to where you can wake up and do it. You can wake
Exactly.
up and ask. I can get on a fire. I can get on the YouTube. I can get on the Instagram and ask you a question. Hey, are you into this? Put the ball in your court. Are some people going to say no? That's life. You go into a neighborhood and you want to buy a
Hmm.
house, you can
Hmm.
knock on every door, and 9 out of 10 of them are not even going to answer, or they're going to say no. But 10% of them might say, "Man, you know what? Man, we've been looking to move anyway." Like
Yep.
just, but if you didn't knock on that door, if you didn't hustle, would have never happened. So I
Nope.
believe most opportunities are locked inside of a hustle for most people, because everything doesn't happen in the way that it happened for the last person. So we have to understand that there's so much more opportunities because the world is more open than ever been. There's more genres. There's more. I mean, we gotta look at it. When you were most of the time when you were a child, UGC didn't even exist,
No,
and
not still the way it is now, but yeah, you're right
yeah,
now.
yeah, it was something to where you had to go through a lot of red tape. You had to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, oh, I hope this happens. I hope that happens. You can literally now eat at a restaurant and make
Hmm.
UGC yourself and
Tag it.
say, this month it's going to be 10 new restaurants I'm trying, blah, blah, blah. Any restaurants, people tag them. I want to, go in and make content with. And you can literally get started yourself by saying, when I go to lunch, I'm making content. I'm
Right.
trying this. I'm asking what's the menu special, and I'm putting it on my page. And next thing you know, somebody said that they started a food review company, all from saying they're going to try 100 restaurants this summer. And now they have the buzz and the only content at this restaurant, the only content at that restaurant. They met that owner. They went back and asked, hey, did you guys see this? I want to send you guys this video. What's your Instagram account? We don't have one. Can I start one for you? Can I, show you the power behind this? Why haven't you started one? The possibilities in today's world in so many industries like a UGC are endless to me. They're just because it's the internet, it moves so fast. Cyberspace
Yeah.
moves at the speed of light, and it's just incredible. No one can, you can literally, right now, you can literally say, this is the name of my UGC brand. I want to make a t-shirt. You can go on Shopify and get print on demand, spend $200, have a merch store started overnight.
Not fast. Yep.
It's endless. When we see YouTube channels blow up and people partnering with each other, like, this is to go from nothing to something. This is the best time in history to do entrepreneurship, to do things like a UGC, to do podcasts, to meet people. I'm talking, it's our first day actually meeting, talking, conversating, the whole everything. And it feels like it's somebody that I've talked to before, right? That's the beauty of technology.
definitely, I agree.
You know?
Definitely. And to build on to what you said, two things. I'll do Kobe Bryant. I'll start with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, he had his hustle of waking up at 4 a.m. and he would practice 4 times a day while everyone else might have practiced twice. That's why he woke up at 4. And that's why he was twice better than everybody else. And
Mm,
he's considered the greatest of all time
right.
because he was putting in that consistency and that work and he got paid for it.
Right, for sure. I mean, and that's because you get those hours, 4 hours a day. Well, a week goes by, you put in an extra day, so now you have 8 days rather than 7 of work that you put in. So just people understanding the advantage that you get because math is undefeated. One day, you add another day, it's always going to be two. But you can build on that because if you do something to amplify your time, now you can turn that into 3 or whatever you do because the math is so undefeated. So that's why I love math because it's consistent. I love consistency. Like I love the possibilities of consistency. And the beautiful thing about math, like that's why I love crypto, is because it's a new universe that's growing and it's all new math. Like every crypto is new math.
Yep.
That's what it is. If you really break it down, it's new computer math. That's what it is. And each one has its own unique take, but they're computer math executed, and it's incredible.
Oh, yes.
So something I want to start getting to on these because it really makes so much sense to me. One mentor Myron Gone, he says there's 4 levels of doing everything. There's implementation, management, communication, and imagination. Right. So he breaks that down in any industry. That's how you build up and make more income in whatever you're doing, right? And so, for example, if you build what you're doing up to execute at a high level in imagination, you create a UGC brand and you already have all the other pieces working, and then now it's just ideas, logos. It's just you're basically the imagination piece of the business. But if you were operating you know, make it easy, let's just say $1 million UGC brand, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah.
you're gonna do that one day, right? There's nothing wrong with
That's
saying
the
that.
goal, honestly.
That's the
Definitely.
exactly, exactly. So now we want to work through each step and how you envision that being executed. And you're only going to be operating the last step, the imagination, right? So you're building $1 million UGC brand and we're going to get to the implementation. So that's the people doing what you're doing. How would you envision, you know, as far as the company being run, the employees being able to execute that? Like, what is the daily life of an employee working for your $1 million UGC brand? What would that look like? So would that be people being able to work remotely from any city in the US? Would that look like would you want it to be like an office where they have to show up to work? Or like what would that look like for the people actually having to create the UGC content?
Well, for starters, I'll talk about the character of people I'm going to hire first.
Right,
I think something that we pretty much a quote came up in my head when we were talking earlier. Good being good isn't good enough.
right,
That's why Kobe Bryant did an extra pretty much 8 days out of the week, out of what you were saying, at work versus the 7.
right.
And by the end of the year, pretty much just double the work of what his other competitors were doing. And so basically, I would choose creators that are who are going to put in that work and show that they're better than good, because good isn't
Okay.
good enough nowadays. Because, like you said, with the digital space changed so fast, and people are putting up so many things like trying to do 200 podcasts in a year
Yeah.
or 100 restaurant reviews, like you said. And to compete with those people, you got to post consistently, work on what you're doing consistently, and research what the
Okay.
best people are doing around you. That's how you really do it. And that's what I would tell my employees. That's how I would train them to show them that I'm still working on it myself. But
Right.
obviously, once I mastered that, I would pass that down, and that's what would make me the $1 million company. I would teach all my employees. I will probably have several different types of ways I would make money with it, but they'll probably get to work whatever they wanted from home,
Okay.
or if they wanted to have an office space, I probably would have a film production room, a space, a recording studio, because I feel like I need that sometimes, even though UGC is supposed to be very the word user generated content, meaning us, the users of the product. It's
Right.
supposed
Very
to not be
organic.
so
Right.
organic, not supposed to be so
Right.
commercially. But
Right.
sometimes it can end up that way, especially when you're getting paid these higher things. And sometimes some companies are looking for that because even companies don't 100% understand UGC yet fully. Some don't know what it is yet, and
That's
some
true.
half know it is and get it mixed up. And it's a growing company just like everything else in the cyberspace. I think last year I was, the numbers are rough. I'm gonna give you rough numbers. $24 billion last year. The UGC was, that's how much value it was. And then
Wow.
this year is 26 billion. And then by 2030 or 2040, it's supposed to be over 100 billion.
Yeah,
There's
for
enough
sure.
money for this for everyone to
Yeah.
do this. Me, everyone, shoot, my mailman, my mama, whatever.
Yeah, no,
Anyone,
for
everyone
sure.
can make money with this. Anyone could do it. But I was just saying, they gotta be consistent if they're trying to make some big money, especially nowadays, because economy, man. I think we all know it's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough for me right now. That's
Yeah,
why
no.
I'm trying to make $1 million. Be $1 million company.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is tough. And that's good that you said that have the character to be adaptable, like to hey, to believe in and execute your vision as a business owner. Like just understanding how important character is. People don't understand that. Like that's one of the biggest things to me that determines your decisions is your character. Like if you don't have good character, it can be obviously you're supposed to do these certain things, you know, whatever it may be, but your character changes that. Like some people, it's this is getting into something a little bit different. But I just wanted to it's reflecting on character. But some people weren't involved in their kid's life for whatever the reason, and their kids are grown, so now they don't have an excuse. But their character is stopping them from being involved because they're using an excuse, saying, "Oh, I didn't know them." You didn't know them before, but you could change it now, and that's your character saying, "Whatever stopped you before, we're not using that excuse anymore. Today, you can call your son or your daughter and say happy birthday or say happy Monday, or I just want to tell you I love you." So, your character is what carries you to be able to execute a successful vision.
I like that. That's very deep. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, for sure. Because people just love excuses, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
I always say the excuses for you, no matter what it is, and the results are for your partners who you're working with. So try to minimize those and build on execution. That's what uplifts your brand as well.
Oh
So now let's
yeah.
get to the next part of it, and that is the what is it called? The managers. So companies have to have managers to hold their employees accountable. So whether it's say you had, three sales associates, three UGC creators, and three general managers that, the managers have to, so you had a sales manager, you had an operations manager, and then you had a GM, a general manager kind of looks over everything, or COO,
Yeah.
company, operations. So it's like, what would be the important characteristics and pieces you would look for when hiring, managers to run a UGC company?
Definitely someone who's probably willing to wake up at 4 a.m. That's real passion, dedication. I don't want to force you to get out of bed because then you're going to make excuses. Oh, I didn't set my alarm clock. No, someone passionate set 5 alarm clocks.
That's
Oh,
true.
this and that. Oh, they already worked out this and that. Your shoes is ready, your clothes is ready, your phone's charged, your wallet's ready, all that. Your car's got gas in it, whatever the
Yeah.
case. You're ready to go. And then once you're ready to go, you execute on, what your expertise is, whatever the managing position is, or for UGC, it would probably be someone who's been very successful in it, who's had plenty of deals, who's negotiated high and low deals,
Okay.
someone that's passionate about, someone who probably makes their own content. Content, honestly, something
Okay.
I learned through UGC is very huge, having your own personal content. And so that's definitely probably something I would probably require of my managers, maybe. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. No, that's good that you want them to understand the business, but also be dedicated to putting in the work and setting an example for the employees. So if your employees have to get up at 6, you're like, hey, we want managers up at 4, on whatever, let's just say it's Power Fridays, you want them up at 4, have managers
Hmm.
meeting, whatever else. That's just setting the standard, because if you're having, your associates wake up at 6 on these days, well, the managers are already they're already looking at numbers, they're already negotiating new deals. The sales managers, they're already understanding where there's, where the sales associates, where they have to be, making sure that the equipment is right for the, sales associates, because the
Yeah,
management is more about thinking, but they still have to know how to and be able to execute when it needs to be done to set the example. So that's very
hmm,
important to know that, because, that's how business is built.
that's where expertise comes in.
Exactly. I'm making sure you're putting the right people at the right places. So now the next one is, and this is where the CEO, no matter what, a good CEO, a good owner does this, at least is involved in the communications. That's why you'll search the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook. He does interview. He has to, because communication is the only thing under the imagination part, because it's such a powerful thing. Just hearing words from a LeBron being able to get on his podcast or whatever it is, or if
Yeah.
it's a Steph Curry, whoever it is, Under Armour will give him bonuses to come and speak, and do
Oh
and
yeah.
put that a part of his contract, because it's so important for him to be able to communicate. Well, how did the shoes work, and what'd you like about having the media team there? And the communication is what changes everything. That's why, if you notice, after every sports game, there's always a post-game interview with the best player, and how'd you get through it, and how'd you do these things. That's put in the contract, that they need to, whoever is supposed to speak after the game, because the communication is such a big thing. So how would you make sure your communication is sharp, and how would you make sure that whoever you're put in place to do public relations, or you know um to do marketing and things like that, what would you do to make sure your communication stays sharp, and what would you do to make sure that you're putting the right people in place to do good communication for a UGC company?
Ooh, communication. Yeah, that's a fun one. That's a tough one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It can be very scary not knowing the
Yes.
right things to say, especially if you
Yes.
don't know the people. Definitely communication. You got to do your research.
Right.
You got to show up on time and look presentable. You got to keep your word. That's part of communication.
Right.
And then asking afterwards, how was this experience of this service or this product or whatever? That's all communication. So you can improve and build on the last experience. If you're not improving, then you're just declining. You're losing. You got to
Right.
always improve on what you already know. And even if you don't know something, that's still an opportunity to learn because you didn't know it, and you got to go do it to know it. And now you got the confidence and the expertise to do stuff. You see,
Yes.
first you got to have the confidence to be an expertise, and to get the expertise and to get the confidence, you got to put in a lot of shots like Kobe, or 10,000 hours, as I like to say is my favorite quote, for to master anything, 10,000 hours.
That's true. No, you're right. So for sure, I mean, like, keeping that mindset, staying ready is a big one. So just like you said, putting the hours in, doing the right thing. So as a CEO of the company, I like to look at it like, what are you doing today to get there tomorrow? Because if you can sit across from your future tomorrow self would say, what would they say? So what I would say, if I was you tomorrow, I'd say, okay, your hair looks good, you're presentable, you're doing the best that you can with what you have. You're clean shaved, you're doing the right things. But it's like, let's just say you came on here, your hair was half done, looked like it was coming apart, your clothes was like torn, whatever the case. See, it's that's all a part of your brand, right? So if you what's super interesting is, if you look up these interviews with people that run these companies, if you look at it, you'll say, you might even say, man, I got that shirt. Oh, I wore that shirt when I was doing an interview, or things like that. So, for the prep time for this interview being an hour, that tells me your hair was already done. You were prepared, right? It tells me you already shaved. You already prepared. You already had a shirt ready to go. You were prepared. You already had the mic set up ready. You were prepared. You had the camera set up ready. You were prepared. You had your back ambiance lighting prepared. You were prepared. You have things ready because you were prepared. And so, the things you said let me know, like, okay, you want to make sure you're prepared for the opportunities that are available, and the opportunities that will come, because of the preparation, because of the forward thinking, because how can I act like the tomorrow me before I get there so it can be in alignment or it can even be ahead?
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That was one of it reminded me of something Russ said in his book to the rapper, working on your dream, whatever it is, if it's $1 million or whatever, you might look delusional because you're working so hard and so passionate and no one else understands why. Why are you doing that? They don't see the results. A lot of time we don't get to see all the
Mm-mm.
shots Kobe put up
No.
or all the songs Russ made. And another point, another thing Russ says, he has a catalog of his music. That's how he blew up mainly. You didn't know the story. That's
Right.
how he blew up. He was releasing music every Friday, and there was music he already had recorded, and he was consistent. He made 11 albums. It was like 11 or 13 albums before he blew
Wow.
up. And
Yeah.
no one does that. That's a consistent. But he had a catalog, and he kept working, and he put in work from years ago that he could release today, make money off of today, and just keep working with the catalog. And that what it comes down to. You got to almost look delusional, just prepare for the next thing and build on everything.
Exactly. No, I really believe that. And I know that that's true because if you believe it, the way you're going to present yourself is going to be ahead. It's going to be at least aligned or ahead. But the people that present themselves behind, it's hard for them to make that up because when the right person sees it and then they'll ask these different questions and they'll say, "What was the first podcast you were on?" And then you kind of like, you like, "Oh, I don't want to say it because," but if you could say it confidently, you say, "Oh, well,
Yeah,
September 2024, I got on the James Elite Loves podcast." So they're like, "Oh, James Elite Love, okay." Now they're already connecting the dots. Like, man, I see him put up content every day. You're on that, yeah? Just search, search this, search my name, and you'll see it. I'm on episode 103. Okay, boom, they search it, episode 103. They see it. They see all the. They say, "Wow, okay, you were already talking about this. You were already doing companies. You were already kind of talking about the company and how you wanted the brand, and you were talking about branding, and you were talking about the things you're already doing now." So that gives a level of comfort and understanding and relationship building and all that stuff way a long time ago because you're ahead. So being ahead, that's how I look at it in communication. It's one of those things where you have to be ahead because it's never gonna come when you want it to usually. It
yep,
comes when you're not
yep.
ready in
Just like
areas
today.
of, yeah, exactly.
For
Just like
me,
today.
I actually have a point if I may. Actually,
Go
so
ahead.
today was a perfect example. I definitely wasn't ready for it. Like you said, I was prepared for it,
Yeah.
and I just hopped on. I took heckin' notes. I got all these notes in front of me to speak on anything. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Definitely so. And then also, I listened to your most recent podcast with the CEO of EYL. I listened to pretty much the whole thing right before, so that way my communication with you was thorough and I was prepared.
That's
This is
right.
what a CEO thinks CEO has to do. Even honestly, a manager, but CEO has to be a master of all these things, or probably managers getting experience to get up to that level. But yeah,
For sure. Yeah. Shout out the interview I did with Michael J. McDonald, one of the founders and starters at EYL. Helps set up pretty much everything that they do. Did a lot of the setup with InvestFest, one of the biggest financial meetups and places that the experts that want to do investing in businesses go in Atlanta, Georgia. And the fact that you prepare yourself like that is really incredible because what you're telling yourself is, I'm going forward. And this is how we go forward is I prepare and I see, okay, this is his interview style. This is what he talks about. So it gets you more comfortable and seeing it's real because, nowadays a lot of people do lip service where to me, what I call lip service is just more talk than action. And it happens so much because it's so easy to do. It's so easy for somebody to say, "Oh, I have these followers, or I've done this, or I've met this person." Okay, let's tie the expertise, the expert level of you to the brand. Where's this content? And then if they, oh, well, it got deleted and, oh, I didn't put it out yet, it has to be in alignment for it all to make sense. That's what people have to understand. So let's get to the peak level when you're running this UGC company of imagination, right? So, what are some things you would do to still create fresh ideas, to make sure you're on the cutting edge, to make sure that your company is still improving, even though you're not even there on day-to-day operations anymore? You're taking vacations, you're looking at, you're making sure that the income is right, you're making sure people are taken care of, but you're operating on such a high level of the business that you need to still be creative because to show the power of imagination, I know you know what Redbox is, right? They used to do the DVD rentals at the little convenience
Yep,
stores and
yep,
things like that.
yep.
Well, they just went bankruptcy, went out of business when they were made multiple billions of dollars because they did not keep their imagination fresh. They didn't realize that they moved over into a streaming model like Netflix did. Netflix started off DVDs to the house. Then they
Hmm.
moved over to a streaming model, and now they're one of the biggest companies in the world. And so, just understanding the power of keeping your imagination fresh. YouTube switched over into the shorts market. I believe it was 2019 and 2020. They started allowing shorts, and now that's one of their biggest viewed content spaces
Hmm.
is short form content when it wasn't even something they did at all. And because of the wave of TikTok, because of the wave of Instagram and Facebook and things, they took notice and stayed creative. And they always pay their creators the best. That's why anybody pick any platform, as soon as you get opportunity to get big on YouTube, go there for sure. But they understood, capitalized, and so what would you do, long story short, to stay fresh and keep your imagination strong as a CEO and owner, founder of a UGC company?
Definitely, there's a couple things I would do, and this might be a surprising thing. My
Okay.
first thing I would say,
Okay.
but it's important, and I would probably say make sure. This is definitely especially for your imagination.
Hmm.
If you don't rest, take a break, you don't have time to imagine and dream and
Mm.
plan. You know,
Yeah,
you don't always be a CEO. Take a break and step out of that so you can get some insight, or you could do some research outside of the office, whatever. Go on a walk. I think there's a quote or something where people said the best ideas came to them on the toilet or in the shower.
that's crazy.
And in a book somewhere, someone said some of that. But I think that's personally applied to me. I'll go on a walk and it will reset my mind, and I'll get an answer to a question I was trying to figure out, or something like that. You know,
Yeah, for sure. So always
that'll be
keep those.
the always keep the good rest and good sleep.
Okay.
That's then the number two is you gotta be the best at what you do. You gotta be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. As Jay-Z said, you referenced him in your last podcast. Jay Z said,
Okay.
uh, check the numbers, the scoreboard don't lie. I'm saying it right. I think I'm saying it right. And
Okay.
basically,
Yeah.
you can be on the court talking trash, but if you're down, you're down. The winning team's the winning
Mm,
team.
that's
Yeah,
true.
anyone can talk trash, but if you're not winning, you're not winning.
That's true. That's true. If you don't know how to get to where you're trying to go as far as in getting a win, then that's on you because you're not really understanding what really needs to be done. You're just it's the person talking about I'm gonna do a podcast today. I put it
Hmm.
in my head this weekend. I'm gonna do a podcast. And so I immediately got to start to thinking, where are the resources for podcast guests? People doing things, people that want to exchange commerce, people that want to make action happen, right? So it's putting the ideas into play, but also having the rest time. Like I had some time to rest and think, and the ideas started to happen. For me, a lot of times that the best ideas for me happen when I get underestimated. That's what it goes for me
Me
because
too. I love it.
right
Me too.
because
Yes.
it's when it's when something doesn't work out is when I get more motivated because I just think in my head how dare you do this or how dare you think that or how dare you react like this to a good deed that I've done because I believe that you reap what you sow. I really believe that. But it's not like planting plants. It's a different type of system. It's a you sow this here and you reap this over here in a year. But if
Yeah.
you didn't sow this, you would never have met this person 7 months from now. So it's like you have to, and the cold part about reap what you sow is I believe that sometimes when you reap what you sowed good seed and they're returning something bad that you did years ago. So it's like you don't even know how the good is going to
I
return.
like that.
Right. Or maybe the good in it was you're frustrated. So you sat in a car for 5 minutes, but that 5 minutes kept you out of an accident. As crazy as it is, that's how I believe what you sow is. Sometimes it's you didn't get the reaction you wanted, and you or you rushed home quick, or you would have stayed longer to talk to them, and then you wouldn't have gotten an accident, or then you would have got robbed, or then you would have went to the wrong neighborhood, or then you wouldn't have called your mom that kept her in the car a little bit longer so she didn't get an accident. All these weird things. So that's how I think what you sow is, because life is a long wave that has peaks and valleys. Peaks and valleys. So you just do your good, you know it's good, and then that law of averages starts to kick in over time.
Yep.
You just know you did good. And sometimes you did good, and sometimes it throws you off. You're like, man, I did nothing but good for this person. I did nothing but good for them. But it's not for them, it's for you. Mentor Marangoni said something. He said, everything isn't working for you. Sometimes it's working on you. So sometimes it could be a brother that did you wrong. That was to work on you, work on your character, work on your mindset, work on your understanding that you need to forgive someone, but don't trust them on the level to where you're risking your rent money or whatever it is. Like, sometimes it's working for you, sometimes it's working on you. And they're both very valuable pieces that happen. But I want to thank you for coming on and getting outside of the box and doing this. I know you've probably watched hundreds of podcast episodes. And if somebody, this is to me one of the most interesting things in life. If somebody would have told you a week ago that this was going to happen, you would have told them that there was a 99% chance they wouldn't, because they would have said, who? James Lee Love. You would have said, who is that? So none of the pieces would have been able to come together. Just yesterday, none of the pieces would have been able to come together because it was 99% of it was still unknown. So that's the beauty in reaping what you sow, because of something you did a long time ago. And mind you, I haven't did any cold fiber outreach in at least 6 months. Right? This is the first day.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? And
That's crazy.
so, right, see how crazy that is? So
Yeah.
that being said, it's remarkable that that's how it all comes together. So that's why I believe in reap what you sow. I believe in sow good, do good, be consistent, be solid, improve where you're expert at, your expertise, build a great brand, and that will be respected. That will be received well, and you'll be able to have the reciprocity come off of that. But if it's a situation where you're always looking, I need this, you're looking at it the wrong way, and you're getting consumed with receiving and not, hey, let me position myself. Let me position myself for where I'm trying to go. So I want to thank you for coming on, thinking outside the box, for being brave and doing something you're not used to, because what it affected and improved was two incredible areas when it comes to business: branding, sales, and investing. One was relationship. The fact that I built with and I kept reaching out to Michael J, and that built a relationship. So what that did was you can actually go click the link, because some people just, okay, he sent it, okay, but you're actually gonna let me see, because I don't know. I don't I gotta
Well,
test it.
actually, if I may, real quick,
Yeah.
I've actually watched that podcast. That's really got me on my journey so many times. I love that podcast. That was one of the first. And so as soon as I saw that name, I was like, "There's no way you did an interview with Dub." I like freaked out. I ran and told my wife about this opportunity. And like you said, if you would have told me this is gonna happen yesterday, I wouldn't believe you or anyone. If someone would told me anyone, any random person on the street would have told me this is gonna happen. You're gonna do this podcast with this guy who did the podcast with the CEO from EYL. You're gonna be like, I'll be like, what?
Right. You're gonna be like, how? Like, does this even make sense? Exactly. And
Right.
and that's the crazy part in it, is we don't know tomorrow. All we know is the good that we've done. But if you would have no UGC videos on your page, now it's a little less believable. Now it's a little, okay, does this, like, where are we at with this? But the good seeds you sowed, whenever you sowed them, do you know what's gonna happen? You don't. But that's because you sow that seed when you sow it, and you sow it. You don't just lay it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they call it sow, because you set it. You set it in foundation, and you let it grow. So that's why I love the term reap what you sow. You sow good seed, you get good harvest. You don't know how, when, and where, but in today's world, a lot of times it comes in cyberspace. And we take those relationships and we take the content and we take it and we sow that again. That's why it's called, so reinvesting in your brand in today's world. Yes, it's financially in a way, but it's different in a way because we have to sow it back in cyberspace, and we have to sow it back again in cyberspace, and we have to keep doing that to the point where you're interviewing with Michael J. McDonald and Rashad Balad and Troy Millings and all the people you look up to. You have a platform because now, whenever you go back and look at this podcast, you're going to be able to say 3 incredible words for the rest of your life. I did it. Right? Because
Yeah.
we have to start somewhere. That's the thing about it. And once we start, it's proof that we can do it. One of the things that I've been thinking that's really kind of been getting me itching and really making me want to lock in harder than ever is I noticed something. Somebody is worse at doing what you're doing, but they're farther along because they're consistent. They're farther along because they kept going. They're farther along because they're delusional. So if you're not delusional enough to keep going, they're not as good as you, but they did it because they believed they could do it and they did it. So that's what changed everything is they believed it and they did it. They're not as good as you, no. Most people aren't as good as the next. That doesn't, I mean, what's amazing is when you go to a restaurant or you go to a grocery store and you're like, this food is nasty. What's going They have a store. So I don't know how they sell that food. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Doesn't matter. They have the restaurant, they did it, and you next person that wasn't brave enough. So they're not as good. It doesn't matter. You have to be brave enough to keep going, to lock in, to keep posting. There's people that you look at them and say, him? Yeah, him. He did it. You didn't do it. So that's what I look at it like. We're all blessed with different things. Like it's interesting. We don't pick how tall we are. We don't pick how we look. We don't pick a lot of these things. But some of these people use their other advantages to say, well, I don't have that, but I'm going to use my ability to talk. I'm going to use my ability to introduce myself to people. Like me, I've always been, if I'm going to pick one, more of an introvert just because I like my peace. So that's me. What about you?
Oh, definitely. I'm the same way. I like my peace. I'm a very
Yeah.
homebody. I can definitely adjust though too. Like
Right.
if I need to get, out in public and meet and greet and communicate, I can definitely do that. But
Right.
I prefer to stay at home and have the home be happy and calm and peaceful.
For sure. What I learned though is when you want to go to the next level, you have to say, okay, that time was special. But now I have to go to this next level of doing this in the way I want to do it. And I can still come to my home base and have peace. But if I need to go out and do outreach, I leave home, I get to my location where I'm doing outreach, and I'm meeting 100 people that do, because it's interesting how these things happen. Different people's career. The rapper The Game started his rap career doing freestyles. If he would have just been at home, none of that happened. Notorious B.I.G. same thing. He was doing freestyles. He been home, none of that happens. And I love my
Yeah,
peace. But what I learned is there's things today that connect us to the world that was thousands of years ago, and it's interesting. All right, so if you're doing some work with Eagle Island and they say, hey, we need you to come to Atlanta during the Invest Fest. We need you to talk about you're going to be our UGC guy. Well, guess what that means? You got to get on a plane and get to the hotel and meet
yeah,
them and get to the stage and talk about what you talk about on all these podcasts. And it's like, okay, now it's kind of like in a way you're in the jungle. It's like you're a caveman in a way because you know what I mean? You're out in the wild and you're making it happen.
yeah.
You're doing your thing. So I just think it's interesting how we have all this technology, but we still might have to do things like this. Like, hey, we're in the wild, we're meeting each other, but we're building. And it's like
Yeah.
that's the interesting part of all this technology. And what's one of the top ways people are getting paid? What did EYL start as? It started as a podcast. Now they have InvestFest. Now they have the world tours they go on. Now they have all these other things. But where did it start at as a podcast? So
It's a podcast with four iPhones.
for
Four
iPhones,
iPhones.
it started off as that, and now they're doing 30,000 at in Atlanta, 30,000 people. Right? They started off as this. 30,000 people now. They're, from guests, as I mean, their portfolio is one of the, probably, I would say it could stand up against any business podcast, any business podcast media company, just because it's so incredible, the amount of guests, the level of guests that they've had on there. And it's so unique and diverse, and no one would have ever thought that that would happen, but they were delusional enough to believe that it could happen, and then it happened. So, you know, I'm glad you believe in what you believe, and I'm glad you're talking about $1 million company, because when it happens, when you look back at this, the conversations that we had about doing it, the people that are surprised that you did it, all you need to do is send them this link,
Yeah.
and told them that this was already going to happen, and you knew exactly how it was going to happen. And when you talk to people that you hire about their character, and then you're saying, listen, you send them the link, and you send them the specific shorts and clips, and you say, this is how long this has been important to me before I even did this. So I already knew this is what I wanted. So you need to work on this. So because sometimes people just think, oh, this person just making this up right now. No, character's been in. That's something that you value as a person, as a father, as a partner relationship. You value all of these things of of honoring how you present yourself, because one day your son's gonna look at this, and and you don't know what age you're gonna be or what age he's gonna be. But one day he's gonna see this, and when you're sitting there doing interviews with EYL and doing stuff, he's gonna be like, "Dad, what was your first?" Everybody, it's interesting. No matter how far we get, everybody wants to go back and look at number one. It's just,
Yeah.
it's such an incredible thing. Like, everybody wants to go back. What was the first episode? What was LeBron's first game? What was Kobe's first game? What did he score? Because it's so interesting to look at how somebody started, rather than versus where they're at. Because it's cool to look at, the Lambo truck and the this and that and that's cool. But everybody wants to let an interview to go back and look at what house you grew up in, and who were your friends when you grew up, to actually see what built you. Because you know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just think that's super interesting with people, and like, even you, like, you got the nice setup, everything looks good, but what built that character? What areas built those characters? What tough days did you have to go through growing up to sharpen yourself, to say, this is who I'm gonna be. I'm gonna build something. I'm gonna own something. Like, there had to be points in your life that had to sharpen this stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh man, so many. I could go on for days.
Who who was somebody that you grew up looking up to, that kind of shaped your mindset to want to be ambitious, whether they were ambitious or not, but just instilled, toughness and good work ethic in you?
Honestly, both my parents.
Okay.
They're divorced right now. They weren't when
Okay.
I was a kid, but they recently just divorced, and
Okay.
that's something that's
Right.
definitely, we're going through challenging times, but
Right.
gotta count for variable change. But anyway, both
Right.
of them honestly were so strong. They did so much. My mom had me at 17.
Wow.
Yeah, she had me at
Okay.
17,
Young.
and she was in Mississippi,
Wow.
and she was dealing with the relations at the time of the '90s, I should say, and she wasn't getting treated the best down there, because she wasn't how everyone else looked down there.
Okay.
And so she had to work through that. She was a nurse. She's been in school her whole life and working
Wow.
her whole life. She was still in high school while pregnant with me, and still did it all. And yeah, and that my mom was just working constantly. She is an RN now. That took a
Oh,
long
wow.
time for her to
Congratulations.
do.
That's
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Shout out to moms
yeah,
for that. Yeah.
yeah. She did that thing.
That's good.
And then my dad just always a hustler. He always had knew how to stretch $1 into 100, and just he always was about mindset and hard work. And I remember one time I was late for something, and it's crazy. I was late for something. I didn't get it in the moment. I thought he was being harsh, but he said something to me, and I totally understand it now. And he said basically, I forget exactly what the event was, but he said it wasn't important to me. I was late because I think I didn't set an alarm, or I didn't wake up on time, something like that. And he said it wasn't important to you. It wouldn't have happened. You would have been up all night if it was
Mhm.
important to you. You would have been up all night, you was prepared, there's no way even to sleep. If you care about it, you was passionate about it. So you didn't want to do it. That's why, whatever why I missed it. Not that's why you missed it, not because of whatever I missed it, the alarm clock or whatever it was. But yeah.
That's true. I mean, that's great advice and mentorship that your parents gave your mom that she stuck with everything that she dealt with and still got her RN. The fact that your dad made things happen for his kids and did what he had to do for his kids, like that kind of stuff shows you like I can do what I can do for my kids. The fact your mom got her RN shows you like I can build up. It shows you what's possible, and so it's good that you had those great examples because some people aren't as fortunate. Some people don't even have their parents, so just having them that you can
Yeah.
still call is a blessing because you know how it is with people. Everybody's just in a different situation.
Oh
Different
yeah.
life comes at them a little bit different. But you're very presentable. You're very well spoken, and like I say, you're doing great things with the UGC. You want to continue this, and yeah, you just keep doing what you're doing. If somebody is struggling with becoming better, with their kind of, because that's one thing I think, with leaving this off, I want to say that people, one of the biggest things I say people get stuck at is mediocre and average. Just pick one and they're there. They're at one of
Mhm.
them, whatever. They're just at just that area where they just can't get to where they're even thinking they're expert, where they're thinking they're good, where they're thinking they're good enough to do the things they need to do. What would you provide to them to help them become an expert at what they're doing?
Uh, it might have been Gary Vee. Man, so many things we're saying right now.
Right.
Gary Vee said we probably referenced.
Yeah.
But or actually, no, I think I can actually credit this one to Hindsight. He's one of my favorite mental awareness creator,
Okay.
motivational speakers on YouTube.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure he was pretty much saying to the equivalent of you got to start somewhere. You're probably going to look like a fool.
Mm.
It's not going to be comfortable. Scrub toilets. Scrub toilets, get on the floor, scrub toilets, literally in your house. If you got to humble yourself, get in your house and clean the toilet. And to sum that up into a quote, my mom gave me this one, which is actually a little funny side story. So she gave me this quote when I was younger, and she said, "Get comfortable with being uncomfortable."
Yeah.
That is the true success to being a CEO or whatever, the best in your field or an expert. You gotta do things that others aren't willing to do time and time again, and smile while you're doing it. And then maybe you can complain about it later to your wife when you get home. But while in the action, you just gotta smile and say, "I got this. I'm the man." Take it to the chin, whatever it is, and
Right.
just keep hustling and push through it. Don't care what you might think you look like or what others say. Don't care because it doesn't matter because they're not paying your bills. You're paying your bills. They're not
Right.
going to make sure you live your dream. You're going to make sure you live your dream, or maybe it won't. Just depends on how bad you want it. If you
Right.
want it, you're gonna do it. If you don't want it, you're not gonna do it. That's the most basic thing. So humans do what they want. If they didn't want to do it, they wouldn't have done it. It's
That's
just
true. That's true. I believe for me, there's two main mountains that you have to be able to cross to get to where you're trying to go. Those two mountains are number one is the mountain of getting through the nose.
mm,
The other mountain is the mountain of improvement. You're kind of going on both of them at the same time. So that's what makes it super difficult. But if you're able to be able to go through both of them at the same time, and it's super challenging and frustrating sometimes. But if you're willing to deal with the no's and the accepting that you need to improve and somebody's better than you and you need to learn from them, is being able to humble yourself and saying, okay, they're better. Let me listen. Let me shut my mouth and listen to what they got to say, or let me pick up the book, or let me listen to their podcast or listen to their video. It's being able to do that. If you're able to do those two things enough, you'll be able to be better. And the tough thing about the getting better thing is sometimes you're good enough. You got to just keep going and look at your results. And if you don't like them, then you have to ask yourself, why'd you get the results you got? And once you get that answer, you'd say, hey, it's just because of the environment. It ain't always gonna work. Got it. Okay. But sometimes it's okay, hold on. I'm 0 for 100. Maybe I'm shooting the ball wrong. Maybe I'm but if you're shooting full court shots, you might not make one. It's just because of the environment. It's just because there's nobody like that's why I like to say
yeah,
like
I
for
like
people that are
that.
right. For people that are struggling, everybody's not like we talked about earlier, everybody's not blessed with a family that's gonna oh, my nephew, here's 10 grand, get started. Everybody doesn't have that, you know. But just because you don't have that, I believe where my mindset has grown, you create your own family. Oh, your
Okay.
cousins, your siblings, I just met you, and I met somebody that does UGC. So now I can hit you up. We have this content that lives forever. Build a relationship. Family is what you make. You make your own family. That's how I look at it. That's my determination. Because if you were just imagine if you had to rely on your family that you're related to survive, what would that look like? It for some people it would look pretty rough.
Tough. Yeah, tough.
You know, because some people, if they called every family member they had and said, "Hey, I'm starting a t-shirt company. Can you support?" They might not get a sale. Not because there has a bad product, just because their family's not that kind of family. But they call
Hmm.
somebody they met 2 weeks ago and they say, "Hey, we want to put an order in for 10. We want to put an order in for 50. I want to get one for everybody in the office." And you just met this person. So that's why I look like at family as you make your own family, because there's no borders, there's opportunities. You can go to any state, you can get on a plane, fly anywhere. You make it what you make it. You open your mouth. 10 people didn't respond. The 11 said, "Hey, I'm opening the business. Come get involved." Because you make it your own. You meet people. It's just so much things that happen, but that's how I look at it. You make it your own because everybody's not doesn't have the same experience as the last person. And maybe because we don't have the same experience as the last person, we can be more open and okay with taking a loss. Because when I take a loss, when it doesn't line up with a person, this is what I'd say, well, I already was at zero before this started anyway, so
You're not losing anything.
I'm not losing anything. If it goes back to, if I don't talk to this person again, I'm like, hey, I started at zero before I came here. I didn't really lose anything because who else was I gonna call anyway? So it didn't work
I
out with
like
them.
that.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like
not.
that. And to build on to what you said about
No.
handling the no's, and I believe it was the mountain of what was it, hard work or something like that.
Yeah, your mountain of improvement.
Rapid improvement. So basically, not only do you gotta take hearing no, but you gotta also say no. You gotta know what's for you
That
and
too.
your
Yeah.
path
Yes.
and align. And if you don't, if you just say yes to everything, you're wasting your time. So
Yes.
that's with experience. You'll know, oh, I gotta say no to that because it's gonna waste my time. It's not aligned with what I'm doing. And then this is going to tie in even more what you said about family. Family is going to ride through that with you through those no's and your mountains of improvements. Your family's gonna be like, "Oh, you heard no today? It's okay. You're here. Yes." Eventually, that they're gonna ride with you through all that, and they're gonna improve with you, and you're
Yep.
gonna guys can build together, and then you could, depending on what you're doing, you can get your family involved in the business. Now you're networking, got a lot going on, and
Yep.
you can make a lot of money just depending on, or maybe you don't got a lot of, make a lot of money. Maybe it's just some like a charity thing. It just depends on what you want to do, a passion, a
Right.
hobby,
Your
whatever.
expertise. That's how I start. It's an expertise. It's an area because certain words. That's why I look at so interesting. But it strikes a comfort and a mindset to do things. When you hear other experts, you immediately have a better comfort level of what's getting done. But when you like, oh, okay, they do this, you're like, a lot of people do that. Are they good at it? Yeah, like look at the reviews, they're experts at it. Or look at, look who they've had on their podcast. They know how to do podcasting. And look at, oh, okay, now you're more comfortable. So it's like the closer you get to expertise, and once you start rolling that expertise over into a brand and building on that, that's where, I mean, if a company wanted to right now walk into EYL and say, "Hey, we want to buy everything," it would be probably, I don't know if they would even sell it, but if they would, it would probably be in the billions just because of
Yep.
the fact of the everything that they've built. They say, "Look, this is 5 years of top level everything." So yeah, 10 billion or that's it. It's here we go. It's up to you what you want to say. And that might be even low ball for them. But it's because they wrote all, and every interview they do, every podcast that they put, all this stuff is continuing to feed into their expertise, because no matter how it goes, it all builds up together. So it's just
Yep.
understanding that, like right now, this is a part of your podcast portfolio, and it's gonna eventually you're gonna do thousands of these. But what's interesting
I like
is,
it.
yeah, you get better every one. That's what's interesting. So it's like in the beginning, it was like I could tell you were still warming up, but guess
Oh
what
yeah,
happens over time? You get so comfortable that now a year later you got the screen on in the back. You're showing, hey, these products do this, but when you hop over into tech and crypto companies do this, and it's that's what starts to happen, and that's the beauty in it. And the expertise is it all rolls into it all builds together. And so I just want to, thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for getting into entrepreneurship. Thank you for
thank you.
helping the companies that you help and the people that you help. And I know they're excited when they see your content, they're using it on their
Yeah,
websites and they're doing things like the fact that you're believing in it, the fact that you're talking about it, the fact that you're, still doing what you're doing, the fact that you got back into it, that you said, I'm not going to give up this time. This ain't going to be my story. The fact that you did that was special, and it leads to more content, more growing of your expert level, your expertise, the expert level way you do things, and the ability of relationships that you have that build itself in cyberspace, because you don't have to be in cyberspace. Like, you're living your life. That's what's so
oh yeah,
beautiful about cyberspace is it's almost like having a clone. Like the time that I did the interview with Michael J. McDonald, what's beautiful about that is that time is frozen forever. So this year, next year, when we do the next interview, that interview was what it was, and it was beautiful because it's always going to be there. This interview is always going to be here. So that's the beautiful part in it is 5 years from now, it's here. I recommend save it, put it on your YouTube. When I send a collaborators, put them all because you got to look at it. What is it worth if you're not using it? It's worth less. And I don't care if it's seen by one more person because there's 7 degrees of separation. So if it's seen by one more person, that person could be connected to your dream client. How would you ever know that? Because another thing that's so interesting is 99% of the world you've never met. Ain't that super interesting? So why not give them an opportunity to see you when you're asleep?
that's real.
Right?
That's good. That's good marketing right there.
Exactly. Because you at some point in time when it starts to get to nighttime and you're gonna have to recharge those batteries. But but the fact that this is done, you just sleep good knowing I'm gonna have something that's here when I'm not here. Like that's what doing the online stuff was really reassuring to me is we don't know if we have another minute left or we have another 50 years. Well, we all have a clock. We don't know how long we got with it. But to know that I can right now go on YouTube and search any Nipsey Hussle interview and it continues to light the fire of entrepreneurship for me. That I can go look at any Kobe interview, and it continues to light the fire of inspiration for me. Like those are two people that aren't here anymore. That their content just inspires me. Watching Kobe games,
Mm,
watching Nipsey interviews, because the fact that he was so far ahead of his time that when I watch his interviews, they still feel, Nipsey interviews still feel new to me.
right. Yeah, me too. He still feels alive.
Still feels alive because he actually did it. He actually was brave enough to do it. And, I'm 36 now. I've lived 3 more years than he's lived. And look how much he accomplished in 33 years of life, right? How much Kobe accomplished in 41, 40 years of life. So I just look at that and that inspires me to say, who am I to sit down and not get on the camera? Who am I to not do cold outreach? Who am I? Because I'm thinking about a no or I'm thinking about it not working. Did they think about it not working when Nipsey made Marathon Closing? Was he thinking about it not working? When he made his album, when he did all his mixtapes, when he built his relationship from the ground up, was he thinking about it not working? When Shaq left Kobe, was he thinking about it not working? No.
Man, no, nope,
He
nope.
he was thinking about getting more Olympic medals. He was thinking about getting more championships. He was thinking about getting a new shoe deal. When everybody turned their back on Kobe, when he had his case and all that stuff happened,
Mhm.
did he think about it not working? He thought about it working. He thought about him figuring it out. He thought about it working. So it's like if you can lock in on that thought, if you can lock in on those mountains, and even like you said, the third mountain of saying no, of going through no's and improving, that's how you build on your expertise, be a better expert. That's how you improve your sales, and that's how you improve your investing to live the life that you negotiate living. the people around you negotiate living, and do things on that level. Because something I was really thinking about today is that one of, I think, the most confusing words is deserve. Because I don't think for most people they don't get what they deserve. Most people get less, but you get what you negotiate.
Ooh, that's pretty deep. I like that.
Because if you
That's real
go
deep.
back, yeah, if you go back and look at all the good you've done in your life, don't you feel like you deserve more?
I'll probably say so. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But think about it. But you got exactly what you negotiated.
No, definitely. I always like to believe and say we're right exactly where we're supposed to be because
hmm
we did the work where we're and the results show.
Exactly. So if you wake up and say, I'm gonna negotiate this, what does that take? Just waking up saying that changes everything. But when you
Hmm.
wake up and say, I deserve another 1,000 from work, you probably don't get that. Because we usually never get what we deserve, but we get what we negotiate. I'm gonna negotiate doing a podcast. I woke up today and I said I'm gonna do one. I don't know if it's gonna be a solo episode or a guest. And I thought about it. I need to do. I've done it. I can always do those.
Yeah.
These stretch you. These teach you. These build relationships. The guest ones, even though you do that yourself sometimes, it's special. But these ones take a different mindset because it improves those three areas that I do coaching in my business. It improves these three areas every time. It improves your branding. Because
Mhm.
better you communicate, the better improve your brand. It improves your sales ability because the better you communicate, the better you're going to be able to sell. And improves your being able to invest because you have to be able to invest in yourself to be able to invest into opportunities. So as long as I can improve those three areas every day, I won the day. That's how I look at it. Because those three areas are going to affect every part of your life. If you can't improve your brand, you're not going to be able to sell. If you can't sell, what are you going to have to invest? They
That's
all
deep.
they all flow into each other. It's super interesting. But if you think about anything, any investment anybody's ever made, they had to start with a brand. Because how'd they get anything? How did anybody get a job? They had brand had to be good enough. But if you go in hair toe up, cussing people out, you're not gonna get a job. You're not gonna get the
Nope.
opportunity. You're not gonna, if you pick somebody up,
Uh,
if you do DoorDash and you throw the food at them, that's gonna be your last day doing that. So,
oh yeah.
but if you have a good enough brand to be able to sell yourself, well, next thing you know, if you sold yourself good and good enough, present yourself good enough, now you got it. Some people get tips more than the order just because they made it better, just because they rushed and got the food, just because they said, "Oh, can you bring this other food to my daughter?" How'd they know they were going to get that? Because they improved their brand, and then they invested back into themselves, nicer clothes, this and that. So you just keep putting that cycle, and you can put improvement at the end of it, and you get to exactly where you're going to go. Isaiah, it was a blessing meeting you, a blessing doing this interview. I look to continue to build with you. I look to see you grow and to be able to push you and for you to do the same with me. If I don't see you putting up content, I'm going to message you and I'm going to tell you put content up today. Today. I don't have
Please.
any.
Awesome.
And if you don't tell me you have any, I'm going to tell you to make some. Make some. And if you go to my stuff and you see me not doing that, hold me accountable.
I
You putting
got you, bro. I
content up,
got you.
and that's how it happened. Because what you start to do in your head is you start to say, why? It ain't cause money, cause it's free. It ain't cause, and omnipresence, whatever platforms you're on, put it there. Put it there. Drop it off. Do it early, do it consistent, be real with what you're doing. You're gonna get to where you need to go. Love what you're building with your brand, love everything you're doing. It's a blessing to talk to you, build a relationship with you, and I just want you to continue doing everything you're doing because it's special.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me.
I got you. All right, give me a second.